Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to be on for up to the next hour. Mia will be here in just a minute. If you do have a question, please press 0. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. 0 if you have a question. And press 7 on the keypad on your phone if you want to provide us your email address for email updates. So again, 0 for questions, 7 for email updates. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. We usually get about 22 in for one of these calls if we can. So again, welcome everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, we're going to be on for about the next hour. If you do have a question, please press 0 on the keypad on your phone, 0 if you have a question. And the reason we collect email addresses, from time to time we'll send out an email blast, as it were, to tell people what's going on in Washington. But we don't use that email address for anything else except to communicate with you from the Washington office to say what's going on. So if you want to get on that list, press 7 for that, 0 for questions. Congressman Mia Love, take it away if you would, please.
Well, hello, and welcome to my telephone town hall meeting. I am so glad that you were able to join me this evening. I'm eager to take your questions and talk about the issues that are important to you in Utah and everyone in this nation. I hope that you will also offer some of your solutions, and if you need clarity on an issue, this is a good time to ask about it and to talk about it. We also would suggest that if you don't get on to ask your question, that you send an email or you send a text message. We would love to make sure that we get your questions answered. It's been a really busy time in Congress, and I want you to know that it's been such an honor to represent you in the 4th District. We are such an engaging district, and I honestly believe I represent the best district and the best state in this country and on earth. The people who have become my friends, become my neighbors, I just have enjoyed making sure I make a difference in Washington for you. Before Christmas, our tax reform bill came into law. We're seeing the benefits of the reform in this nation. Thousands of companies are expanding and raising salaries. Employees are enjoying bonuses. The utility rates are going down. You should also see a difference in your paycheck next month. I'm really excited about that when the policies take effect. I'm also proud to tell you that my bill is advancing in the House of Representatives today in Financial Services Committee. We passed a measure that will make it easier for small banks and savings and loans to loan companies to lend money to consumers. That is great. That's good news for consumers. I'm also making a difference on immigration reform. I had a meeting with the President in the White House and had a separate meeting with General Kelly to present my goals on immigration reform and border security. I'm also confident that we can find a solution where I'm tired of kicking the can down the road. I think that this has to be done through legislation, not through executive action, so that way people have something and they've earned something that no president can take away from them. It's also been very disheartening to hear about some of the cases of sexual harassment that have involved members of Congress. It's really important that I am a voice in that area and cracking down and making sure that taxpayer dollars aren't used to settle these cases. So I've introduced a bill called the STOP Act, which we should be seeing come up in the near future. That bill is being advanced either this week or at least by the end of the month through the admin committee. There's so much going on. I could take all this time to talk about what's going on, but let me get to your questions so that way we can get the ball rolling and we can see what we can do to make a difference for you. So I'd love to answer a question.
We'll do a question. Your team has asked me to get this quick polling question in first if we can. It goes like this. How important do you feel is it for Congress to tackle immigration reform? Press 1 for very important, press 2 for somewhat important, 3 for not important. So again, the question is, how important do you feel it is for Congress to tackle immigration reform? Press 1 for very important, 2 for somewhat important, or 3 for not important. We appreciate you voting on that. While you're voting, we're going to take Taylor. Taylor, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Taylor, please go ahead with your question.
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to say to Mia that I sincerely appreciate her efforts on behalf of Utah veterans. Her office has just been great to work with. But I wanted to ask a question about something I saw on the news about you sending a letter to the director of the VA. I'm just wondering if you could let us know what was in that letter and kind of what it means for us.
Okay, so recently the Department of Veteran Affairs announced a series of actions to address ongoing issues of delayed payments to community providers that serve our veterans. The announced changes came shortly after I wrote a letter to Secretary Shulkin about the issue, urging him to take immediate steps to rectify the problem. Ultimately, the actions taken by the VA will ensure that veterans have access to timely care from community health care providers. So I'm grateful that the Secretary answered and responded positively to my letter. We had some concerns from veterans in my district, and I applaud the VA's actions. It's just crucial that men and women who have risked their lives for our country receive good, quality care in a timely manner. And I've been an advocate for our veterans. I will continue to be an advocate for our veterans and making sure that we keep the promises that we've made to them and keeping the promises that we've made to their families. So we were made aware of the issue of late payments to the community providers by numerous veterans. We hold an event every year so that our veterans can come to us and tell us what the issues are, what we can work on, and that becomes our action items for the next year. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to hold an open forum, talk about veterans issues, and make sure that we fix the problems that our veterans encounter. And so we're really, really excited that we were able to do that, but there's so much more to do when it comes to our veterans. They're incredibly brave and wonderful human beings that have sacrificed so much to make sure that we enjoy the benefits that we enjoy in this country. And we owe it. The 4th District owes it to them. I certainly owe it to them to do everything I can to answer the issues that they're having. So I appreciate you asking that question, Taylor. I think it's important for people to know. If you're out there, if there are any veterans that are out there and you have an issue with the VA, our office is absolutely excited and want to do everything we can to work with you. Please contact us and allow us to help you through any issues that you may be facing. We're completely committed to helping you. So thank you.
I wanted to remind folks that just got on the call, if you do have a question, press 0 on the keypad on your phone. And if you want to get on the email list so we can send you email updates just every once in a while, and that email address doesn't go to anybody else, press 7 to do that, 7 to be added to the email list. We really appreciate it. So 7 for emails and 0 for questions. We had a polling question before. How important do you feel it is for Congress to tackle immigration reform? Very important, 72%. Somewhat important, 22%. Not important, 7%. Congressman Mia Love, what do you think about those results, please?
Well, I think, immigration is something that we have been, that has been put off for such a long time. And we cannot look to the White House to decide what they can give and what they can't. I mean, you have to understand that we shouldn't be legislating through executive orders. That issue has to be done through Congress, and this is something that we have got to make sure that we address. Now, the reason why we have this problem is a result of Washington's inaction. It's easier to be here illegally than it is to be here legally, and there are people that want to come here, that want to become naturalized, want to become U.S. citizens, take on the benefits and also the responsibilities. And so it is up to us, members of Congress, who have been elected, to go in and make sure that we fix this through law. And that way people will be able to have some sort of security in terms of they don't have to wait for a president to give them something, and they certainly don't have to be afraid that a president will take something away. So I know that more and more people are concerned about immigration, concerned about border security, concerned about how our country having a uniform rule of naturalization. I know that this is something that our office has worked on in terms of helping people go through the process and immigrate legally so that they don't hit any bumps or hurdles along the way. And so I know that this is important. This is an issue that's incredibly important to people in our communities. So it's good to get some of the responses that we're getting, and I'm committed to making sure we find a solution.
We had a question come in earlier on our sign-up sheet. It comes from William. I want a border wall. What do you think about that to enhance border security?
Okay, so I think border security is incredibly important. It's a national security issue. Without a strong border, without strong borders, without strong security, human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, all can come easily across our borders. Open borders can undermine efforts from law enforcement as well as our legal immigration system as a whole. But we want people coming in through the front door, and we have to make it a little bit easier and something for people to be able to navigate. My parents came to the United States from Haiti. They immigrated legally. It was easier to do it at that point, but you have to understand that it was one of the most wonderful days of their lives when they became U.S. citizens. They studied the Constitution. They studied they knew the English language. They studied American history. They worked hard for everything that they have. They made sure that they provided for themselves and their family, and I'm a result of that. They were willing to take on the responsibilities and the benefits of freedom that we have in this country. And in all ways, shape, and forms, they are U.S. citizens in their minds, in their souls, and in their hearts, and they pledge their allegiance to our flag. So we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to come and be contributing members of society in our country and add to this wonderful, diverse American culture that we have and be able to participate in that. But with all of that, in order to make sure that we first do no harm and strengthen United States national security, we have to have border security. It's really important. And so I am absolutely committed to making sure that we find a solution for those who are here that want to get their documents, want to become U.S. citizens, to be able to do that. And it has to be paired with border security, an entry-exit system, and making sure that we address those issues at least at the very beginning and continue to work on immigration reform.
We're going to do another poll question real quick before we take our next listener. Let me get it queued up. I want to remind people if they want to get on the email list, we can send you out an email from time to time from the D.C. office. Please press 7 on the keypad on your phone. You'll be gotten to pretty quickly. I think we have the fastest crew ever collecting email addresses tonight. So press 7, and you'll be gotten to within just a couple of minutes. What are the priorities you feel Congress should take on this year? So sorry about that phone in the background. I apologize. Press 1 for immigration, 2 for repairing our nation's infrastructure, 3 for health care, or press 4 for entitlement reform. What are the priorities you feel Congress should take on this year? Press 1 for immigration, 2 for repairing our nation's infrastructure, 3 for health care, or press 4 for entitlement reform. We appreciate you voting, and let's do Natalie next if we can. Natalie, welcome to our call. Natalie, go ahead with your question if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking my call, Representative Love. I've been absolutely honored to watch you take on so many women-based issues with such grace and really appreciate that here in your district. I wanted to ask you about the legislation you just proposed. I believe it's called the STOP Act. Mm-hmm. If you could tell us a little bit more about that and the status of it, because I think it's fantastic legislation.
Okay, so last December I introduced the STOP Act, which is Stop Taxpayer Obligation to Perpetrators of Sexual Harassment Act. As the only female member of the delegation, I felt it was important for us to address this issue and stop the practice of taxpayer dollars being spent on settlements. If you've noticed, I've called out people on my own side of the aisle to resign if all of us have realized that taxpayer money was spent on settling these cases. So what it does, it requires members of Congress to reimburse any money paid as a settlement in cases of sexual harassment committed by that member. Now you have to understand that the member has to agree to the settlement, and if they agree to a settlement, then they have to pay. They have to pay that settlement. It also, I think, protects due process, because someone who goes and is really not guilty of any sexual assault or sexual harassment, they should be able to work and fight it out. But I don't want people to think that there is a fund out there that they can just settle and the taxpayers have to be on the hook for it. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm actually here to save taxpayer money and to make sure that there is transparency and taxpayer dollars aren't being taken advantage of. It also allows the victims to be compensated. So if the member agrees to a settlement, the taxpayers wouldn't be footing the bill. The member would be footing the bill. The bill will be rolled into a larger package which will be introduced in the House. I'm really excited because they've taken on my bill, H.R. 4674, the STOP Act, and have put it into a comprehensive administration bill dealing with sexual harassment. I can't tell you how much of an honor that is when there's so many bills that are out there. I try and keep mine as simple as possible, and I do everything I can to make sure that I practice my one subject at a time and making sure that issue is addressed. And my bill was simple and and easy to understand, so that's why that bill was picked up. And we'll see that bill actually go through the House in the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited about it. And I hope that this will, one, stop a culture or behavior that we have seen, and I certainly hope that it allows for due process to take place, so that someone doesn't feel someone is not guilty before investigation starts, and someone who is going to settle pays for it. I think that it's important for people to be responsible for their behaviors. So, and that includes members of Congress. And last but not least, this bill came because I believe that members of Congress should live by the laws that they create. In other words, if this happened anywhere else, the person would be responsible. And so members of Congress should be responsible for their behaviors also, and they should live by the policies that they create. So thank you for asking that question, Natalie. I really appreciate it. I just want you to know that it's something that's been disheartening, but I think that we can address it and change the culture that we have here.
We did a survey question just a couple of minutes ago. The question went like this: what are the priorities you feel Congress should take on this year? At 33%, it was health care. At 30%, it was immigration. At 24%, repairing our nation's infrastructure. And at 13%, entitlement reform. So again, the top one just barely was health care at 33%. Immigration was 30%. Repairing our infrastructure was 24%. And 13% was entitlement reform. Mia, love your thoughts on those results, please.
Well, I think that, of course, this is exactly what we're seeing. Healthcare is really important to people, and making sure that we bring down the cost of healthcare. It's important for people to have access to healthcare at lower cost. There's so many things that we can do that Washington's not addressing, and we need to do everything we can to address it. I also think that, like we've talked about, we have to address DACA. We've got to make sure that we do everything we can to do something so that this is not an issue that continues to come back over and over again. There are people that are out there that are waiting for some sort of solution, and I think that we can do everything we can to work on that.
Another ask: if you want to get on the email list, please press 7 on the keypad on your phone, so we can have one of our folks take down your email address and send you out something from time to time and tell you what's going on in Washington. Now, we've got plenty of other people wanting to get questions in, so I'll stop yabbering here. We'll take Colleen next. Colleen, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Colleen, please go ahead.
Yes, my question basically has already been answered on the immigration. My concern is I feel that we need to give them more of an opportunity to be productive in our country, but they should not be receiving benefits unless they are productive and paying taxes.
Yeah.
But I think that, we do need to give them more of a chance to try and to be able to become citizens, but they do need to start learning their language. At my work, there's just so many of them that do not even try. That we have. I'm a nurse, and we get patients, and some of them have been here for years, and they don't speak any English at all because.
Colleen, that is absolutely that's absolutely reasonable. That's one of the reasons why I supported the RAC Act, because what the RAC Act did was it said that if you hold a full-time job, or if you're enrolled in school full-time, or enlisted in the military, and you are not on assistance, and you have a clean criminal background, then after 5 years you can actually file for your green card or your residency, and then start the pathway so that you can become a U.S. citizen. But that is, there are people that want to earn their way through, and I agree with you. You have to be able to take on not just the benefits, but also the responsibilities of being a U.S. citizen. What I mean by the benefits, I mean the freedoms that we enjoy here. I have to tell you, I believe that we still live in the greatest country on earth. And I think that there are people that the majority of people agree with you. We want to give people a chance, but that's got to come with border security, and it's got to come with a chance that people can earn their way and work their way to becoming a U.S. citizen and have something that no one can take away from them. So I think that the majority of the 4th District is with you on that. We are going to do something with DACA. There are people that are out there wanting to have this fixed, and we need to stop kicking the can down the road, roll up our sleeves, and work to get this done.
Let's take another question if we can. It's Grayson. Grayson, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Grayson, please go ahead with your question.
Yes, I just want to thank you for your work in addressing tax reform. I myself, I own a small business, and I wanted to get your thoughts on how this legislation will help my company and my family.
Mm-hmm. Well, Grayson, there's a lot to talk about on tax reform, but let me just say, first of all, let's talk about the benefits that we're seeing from tax reform right now. Withholding rates are due to change next month in February, so you'll see lower tax rates, which means that you'll see an immediate increase in take-home paychecks in February. Based on on census date, the average of a four-person family in Utah's 4th Congressional District will see a $2,362 tax benefit this year. Now, I know we are hearing so many different things from so many different people, but this is the reality of it. I know that there are a lot of people that would like to create this and make this a political issue and do not want to see Republicans get a win. But one of the things that has always been true is that we have done everything we could, and I have done everything I could to give people tax relief so that they can take care of their families, so that they can maybe pay for another semester of college or purchase a car to go to and from work, so that they could be able to put food on the table, or maybe purchase a laptop so that they can get homework done or work done and they can be more productive. I just think that it's important for us to do everything we can to lower taxes, because in this country, we're not one tax hike away from prosperity. As a matter of fact, I believe that we are overtaxed, and we've got to do everything we can to give people a chance at keeping a little bit of their own money. So we've seen large and small employers announce bonuses, including AT&T, Comcast, Nationwide Insurance, Southwest Airlines, bonuses of $1,000. Zions Bancorp plans to offer a one-time bonus of $1,000 to 80% of its employees. They're actually making sure that their employees receive it and keeping it away from their executives. We'll also see increased compensation for more than 40% of its employees. Zions will also contribute $12 million to its corporate foundation, which donates to a range of nonprofits, including homeless shelters, affordable housing projects, food pantries, other charitable causes. I mean, this is a snowball effect in a good way. Apple also just announced that it will invest $350 billion in the U.S. economy over the next 5 years. which will also include the creation of about 20,000 new jobs. This is great news. There's so much to talk about in terms of what the bill has done. I hope that you will go to the website and look at the provisions that are in the bill, including expanding the child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,000, which is really important for the state of Utah. It protects the contributions of 401ks for retirement. It does everything it can to make sure that we simplify the tax code. We allow people to deduct about $10,000 from their state loan or from the state local taxes or their property tax. I mean, this is all really going to help quite a few people, especially the people in my district. So I'm really excited about it. You don't have to take my word for it. You can wait and see the results of it. So this is a good thing, and no matter what anybody says, results really doesn't change the narrative. Results will tell the truth.
Thank you, Mia. Let's do a polling question if we can. What is the impression of how tax reform will affect you personally? So the question is, again, what is the impression of how tax reform will affect you personally? Press 1 very positively, or press 2 somewhat positively. Press 3 no effect. Press 4 somewhat negatively, or press 5 very negatively. The possible answers to the impression of how the tax reform will affect you personally are: press 1 for very positively, press 2 somewhat positively, press 3 no effect, press 4 somewhat negatively, or press 5 very negatively. We really appreciate you voting on this. Let's take David next if we can. David, welcome to our call. David, go ahead with your question if you would, please.
Yes, I heard an interesting story recently about Operation Underground Railroad that involved Representative Love. I was wondering if she had anything more to elaborate on that and how that issue affects our state and what Congress's role in stopping human trafficking is.
David, great question. So Operation Underground Railroad is a Utah-based company that actually goes around the world and rescues children from human sex trafficking and slave labor. Now, the way that I got involved in it is through my committee of jurisdiction, which is financial services. I'm on the subcommittee of terrorism and illicit financing, and my jurisdiction in that is human traffic and sex trafficking, because we have seen that behavior become more like an epidemic here in the United States. So in order for me to understand how that goes, what is happening, and also any foreign aid or funds that we send to different countries if it's inadvertently being used for human and sex trafficking. So it was important for me to really get involved and understand how that actually works, and there was no better way to do that than actually go in and see what Operation Underground Railroad, which is a nonprofit organization, is doing to end human and sex trafficking. Now, one of the things that we've realized that has actually given me the ability to work here in the United States and stop human and sex trafficking is we found several things. One is a lot of the orphanages are being used as shells for human and sex trafficking, especially children. It's a horrible story. It's a horrible thing to find out. But there are times where foreign aid is actually being used to send to orphanages, but we're realizing that those orphanages are actually shells for human and sex trafficking. The other thing that we've realized is what's happening when it comes to border security. This is why border security is so incredibly important, because there are people that are being trafficked from Mexico into the United States. I met a young lady who was actually trafficked from Mexico and spent 3 years in Manhattan being trafficked until she escaped. She had never actually seen the outside of the bedroom door. It was a horrible story, and here she is in a place 3 years, and she didn't know where to go or how to go, and just asked people to help her. These are the things that are actually in my committee of jurisdiction, and frankly, this is not a right or left issue. It's a right and wrong issue, and as a mother with 3 children, seeing how people are actually going after these children, they're profiling them. it really does take care of a whole set of problems that we have in the United States when it comes to human and sex trafficking. So this falls under my committee of jurisdiction in terrorism and illicit financing, and I have been proud of the work. So that is how that came about and how I got involved in that. And the whole aim is to stop human and sex trafficking here in the United States.
Just wow. Anyway, if you have a question, please press 0. If you want to be added to the email list, press 7. Let's take Brian next if we can. Brian, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Brian, please go ahead.
Hello, it's Brian.
Hi, Brian.
So I had a couple of just small little questions in just how you would handle things with the press being so volatile and kind of anti-Republican and really anti-Trump, and a few of the more built-in established Republicans being very anti-Trump. The press kind of attacks and twists words. They can add a word, take out a word, do something that gets a meaning completely different. So even from you, I get little quotes and you see stuff from you coming that they make it appear that you're attacking our president, maybe rightfully, maybe not. Just wanted to see how you felt about that. A two-part question, and the second part is, sorry to do this because I just want to get it out. When I think the best way to attack it would be to, if our president is doing a policy that you disagree with, that could be an issue. But if you support his policies, but maybe not how his verbiage, or something comes across as hurtful, then that should be kept separate and not give any fuel to. Okay. They use Republicans against Republicans like you can't even imagine, and we cannot do that and survive. And that's just my opinion. I want to know how you feel about that.
Okay, I have an answer for you. So I just want you to know that what you're going to get from me is complete honesty. First of all, I agree. The media hasn't been fair. The media hasn't been fair to the White House. The media is not fair to members of Congress, especially Republican members. I'm going to try and keep it away from Republican Democrat because this is an official town hall meeting, but you're absolutely right. In terms of what my role and my policy is and what I'm here to do, I'm here to, frankly, protect Article 1 of the Constitution. In other words, it is Congress's job to make sure that they're the ones writing the laws and they're the ones that are putting forth the policy, and they have power of the purse. Understand that most of these bills are not coming from the White House. As a matter of fact, tax reform didn't come from the White House. The president supported tax reform, and I'm grateful for that. I'm glad. But my job as a member of the House of Representatives is to represent the people that have elected me to be here. So my job is the branch of government that's closest to people is the House of Representatives. I have called the former administration out when they've done something wrong, and I want to make sure that we're not consolidating power to the White House, because eventually there's going to be another president there, and we have to make sure that that president doesn't have power over us, and we have to return that power back to the House. So I am glad on the policy side where we've done quite a bit, and we've been able to get our bills to the White House, and the president has been able to sign it. I do believe that we have to do what we can to be kind and to be respectful to one another, and to make sure that we use language that is American, that resembles our values, not just American values, but frankly, me in Utah values, and our faith and what we believe in and how we believe in each other and how we handle things. I think it's important for us to make sure that we do everything we can to speak in a way that we can bring people to come along with us. The last thing we want to do is alienate people. Now, I want you to know that I believe that the policies that we've put into place in the past year have been good, compassionate policies. They've been policies that are good for people, that allows people in this country to go to work, to the middle class and far beyond. And I think that in this country, what's great about the policies that we believe in, especially in the state of Utah, is that no one's predestined to be poor. No matter, regardless of your race or your gender, you are not predestined to be poor, and that's what's great about America. So I want you to know that I appreciate what you're saying. My job is to make sure that I am fair. Before I released, I want you to know, before I released out any statement, I reached out to the White House, and I called the White House, and I didn't hear back. And then when I got the statement, anyway, I've been able to go to the White House and to make sure that I put emotions aside and work on the policy. And that's where we are. So I don't back off anything that I've said because I believe it was a good reminder, and I've been able to work through that, and want you to know that my job is to make sure that I return power to you and not consolidate power in the White House. And so I hope that that answers your question. I hope you understand that my job is to do everything I can to represent you and to make sure that this president or the next president doesn't have the power to dictate every aspect of your life.
Our next question, excuse me, our next question comes in from Aaron that came in earlier today, and the question goes like this: what are you doing to make sure that immigration remains a priority?
Well, this is an issue that's been this is something that's been an issue for a long time. District 4 has thousands of DACA recipients that go to school. They serve in the military. They have homes. They have children who are citizens because their children were born here. And I want to make sure that we continue to work on this as a priority. Now, I've gone in and I have put myself right at the table on all of these discussions. I've already put out there and let the 4th District know that this is a priority of mine, and I want to make sure that we see this through. So we are working on ways to make sure that both Republicans and Democrats come to the table and work on this issue. We've had very productive talks in the past few days with the leaders. I have been involved with every single meeting from that we have since I've gotten involved this week. And we're going to continue to do that. Recently, I co-introduced the Uniting and Securing America's Act. It's called the USA Act, which addresses both DACA and border security issues. If you want to look at it, the bill number is H.R. 4796. 50 people have signed on to it already, 25 Republicans, 25 Democrats. The White House has told us what their priority is. We've told them what our priority is, and we're going to introduce a policy that we're going to be able to send to the president's desk, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that as soon as March. Now, as you know, I've already sent a letter right before Christmas to tell the president, to tell the Speaker of the House that we needed to make sure that we get this issue addressed as soon as possible, and I'm glad that they've gotten me to the table and that I will be aggressively involved in immigration reform. So the next steps is really coming up, making sure that we're introducing the bills that will eventually be voted on in the House and in the Senate. That can happen fairly quickly and get it to the president's desk as soon as March. March is what I'm being told the timeline will be.
Thank you, Mia Love. Okay, last ask. If you have a question, press 0. And if you want to get on the email list, press 7 on the keypad on your phone, 0 and 7. Let's take Kevin next if we can. Kevin, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Kevin, go ahead with your question if you would, please. Go ahead, Kevin. You're up. You're there. In the military, what are you going to do to ensure we will have funding if the government shuts down? Also questions about free speech on college campuses. That's what Kevin has to ask.
Okay, Kevin, first of all, I don't think anybody wants to see a shutdown. It's really bad for our military. It's really bad for them to be able to work through some of the issues. And frankly, we have a lot to be worried about. There are countries out there that we have to look out for, including the countries in the Middle East and North Korea. That is a threat to the United States of America, Iran continues to be a threat, including even what we know and what we don't know about Russia. We have to make sure that we are funding our military and making sure that we are ready for any threat that may face us. So I can tell you that there is no desire here in Washington to allow government to shut down. And I think that should be an issue that all of us are concerned about on both sides of the aisle. Nobody wants to see a shutdown because the threats that we face are way too important. I do think that we have to address our spending. I'm tired of kicking the can down the road. I think we have to address our spending for everything that we are doing. We have to make sure that we prioritize. And last but not least, I just want to let you know, Kevin, that you being a veteran and you being a member of the military, I don't know if you're still an active member or not. I just want to thank you for your service. There is not a day that goes by that my children are not praying for you and your family. And I just want you to know that making sure that we're taking care of you and having the equipment that you need to protect us is absolutely vital. And I want you to know that I have your back. And if you need anything, please call me, come to the office. But I want you to know that I have your back. It's important. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mia. Let's take a couple more questions if we can. Let's take Doug next. Doug, welcome to our call. Doug, go ahead with your question if you would, please.
Yeah, I appreciate your service, but I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
The first one is, it seems to me like this Dreamer DACA thing is being too complicated. If those people have done a productive education or served in the military, why can't we just simplify the process by saying you've got 90 or 120 days to go take your citizenship test, be a citizen, and the problem goes away? My second question is, over the last 3 years, Social Security has said your Social Security benefits are being increased. But at the same time, they increase the Medicare charge, and your monthly benefit check stays the same because they increase the Social Security using the Consumer Price Index at 2%. They increased the Medicare thing 24%, and I don't know what index they're using for that. But
okay. All right, Doug. Okay, so thank you for asking that question. First of all, I want to answer your first question about Dreamers and DACA. You're right. They're making it too complicated. I think people are more interested in scoring political points than actually getting it done. So what I have discussed with House leadership, with the people that are working on this issue, including me, Ileana Ross-Layton, and Carlos Curbelo, Will Hurd, and the Speaker and the Leader, and also the White House, and also members on the other side of the aisle, is that we have got to come together and simplify it. So you're right. I think that it's important for us, if people are working their way through, like we said in the RAC Act, if people are actually enlisted in the military, if they have a full-time job, or if they're in school full-time, we don't want to ship people off that are going to compete against us. We want to keep that talent here. So I think we need to simplify it. We need to give people a way that they can work through and get their citizenship. And I want you to know that when you work through something and you feel like you've earned it, you cherish it. And that's how my parents have explained it to me, and I do believe that we need to make sure that we are not too complicated. So all we have to do in the first step of this is to worry about border security, DACA, and to do everything we can to make sure that we take care of some sort of an entry-exit program. So that way we know exactly who's coming in and we know when they're leaving, so that it doesn't become another issue where we have to go back and deal with the same thing. We have to make sure that we have a uniform rule of naturalization. That is our job under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. So this is absolutely constitutional. It's getting back to where we're supposed to be and making sure that we have a system that is not too complicated, that everybody understands that they can go through. So, Doug, you are absolutely right. It's way too complicated. in terms of Social Security and Medicare, CMS creates the rates. I can follow up with you, but the rates are done by CMS, and they're the ones that adjust the index. And so we'll get, if you can get your information out, I'd love to make sure that we get you and call the office so that we can have a detailed conversation as to how that's working. But in terms of working through and fixing that, so that's another thing that's it's a huge issue that has to be addressed also. So thank you, Doug.
With that stated, let's take a question that came in earlier from Diane. What's happening on the Financial Services Committee? I don't hear much about your work there. Do you have any bills in?
Okay. Well, first of all, if you want to hear about my work on financial services, I want you to be able to go to the website. We have a lot of information about the website, on the website, so that you know exactly what we're doing. I'm on 3 different subcommittees on financial services. I am on financial institutions. I'm on monetary policy and trade, and I am on terrorism and illicit financing. We just got a bill today that has gone through. It's the Small Bank Holding Company Relief Act. That bill was actually signed in the Senate. We passed a similar bill in the House that increased the threshold from $500 million to $10 billion, and now we're putting in legislation that is actually very likely to go to the President's desk. It just came out of committee today that increases the small bank holding threshold from $1 billion to $3 billion. So let me explain what that does. It helps our small banks raise the capital they need to make the loans in their community. The bill answers to some of the overregulation that we've seen in Washington, where our small banks are subject to very restrictive rules that prevent them from having the ability to lend money to everyone. So what that means is, with Dodd-Frank and all of the legislation that has gone in, our small banks, who had nothing to do with the financial crisis, are suffering from the overregulation, and they're closing their doors at the tune of 1 bank per day. Now understand, these are the banks that are in our communities. They're in Saratoga Springs, they're in West Jordan, they're in South Jordan, they're in Murray. These are the banks that you go to where they know you by name. And they're closing their doors, and they're either consolidating or they're going away. And we want to make sure that they continue to work in our communities, because they are the lifeblood of our communities. They're the ones that offer us the credit that we need so that we can purchase tractors to plow our fields, or to purchase a car, or to expand our business, or to get some sort of loan because we have a great idea that we can put out there and offer service to our neighbors. So we want to make sure that we keep these banks thriving and going, and make sure that we don't put too much of a burden on them. It impacts families, farms, small businesses that have to deal with larger banks, and sometimes it's against their best interest. I think it's important for us to have as many options as possible when it comes to getting access to credit. And when these small banks close their door, it hurts the most vulnerable among us, and especially the middle class. So we want to make sure that we give access to credit everywhere we go. And the bill that is actually passed through, that is my bill, is going to help us open up access to credit to as many people as possible. So that's the American dream. And again, that's me giving people as many options as possible. So thank you for that question. It was incredibly important. I hope that you'll go to the website. I hope that you will look and see what we're doing and how much work that we're doing. We just got into the bill, just to let you know, we just got into the next continuing resolution, the repeal of the medical device tax. It's going to be delayed again because it's going to hurt a lot of our businesses in the 4th District, and we've been able to work to get that through. So there's a lot of work being done, and I appreciate the question.
Congresswoman Mia Love, we're running out of time, and so In finishing, I want to remind people they can leave us a message at the end, and if they want us to contact them rather, they need to leave us contact information such as their name, phone number, email address, so we have a path to get back to you. State at the end of the call to leave that voicemail message. Meanwhile, Mia Love, bring us to the finish line if you would, please.
So I'd like to thank all of you for joining me tonight. The work that I do here is not always easy. It's very difficult, but I want you to know that I have to make every moment that I spend here worth it. Not just for you, but for all of our children, so that they could be able to inherit a more prosperous, great country. There's so much that is left to do. Tax reform was just the beginning. There's so much more to do. We are focusing on still doing our work in financial services, stopping taxpayer payments to sexual harassment settlements. We are doing everything we can to address immigration reform, among many other things, and representing the district and making sure that you have the ability to make decisions in your home and we keep your taxes low. That's certainly been the priority, and I'm going to continue to do that. I can't tell you how much I enjoy and I'm honored to represent you. We've had so many people come into the office, and I want you to know that our door is open to everyone, regardless of your political affiliation. Our job is to make sure we take care and do everything we can to be a good representative to you. I'd also like to send another shout out and thank you to our men and women in uniform that are out there, that are away from their families, that are getting ready to make sure that the United States is safe. Those who have come back, that have sacrificed already. I know but I know that you know this already, but I need to make it clear again that our office is here for you. If you need anything, if you're not getting anything from the VA, if you need us to work through or knock some doors down for you, we're happy to do that. It's our pleasure to do it, and we want to make sure that you feel as if you are absolutely represented by us. I continue to work hard in Washington to represent our values, and I won't stop. I am incredibly grateful. God bless you all. Have a good night, and God bless our great country, the United States of America. Thank you.